I'm not introducing him. I want to be in the middle of a conversation. Thank you. Jay, and where are you at this moment on the planet Earth?
Today, I'm in my room, my bedroom, next to the modem because it's the only place that I can get the internet to work. I've, in the past, tried to do videos in the front room of my house with all my wine carboys and everything, and I have my whole wine get up in there. And it's pretty nice looking, but I tried to bring the laptop out there and it just wouldn't connect. So here I
Yeah.
am.
It's extraordinary, this time of connection. I mean, to see where, I mean, did you get into the internet early? What was your route into the
Um,
world of ones and zeros?
yeah, let's see. Going through the 90s when the internet first started coming out, I
Yeah,
remember I didn't have it as a kid because we were pretty poor.
yeah.
But I go to my friends' houses, and some of them would have it, and yeah, it was. I never thought it would end up getting to the point where it literally controls almost every second of your life.
Isn't
And
it amazing?
yeah,
Yeah, and but like everything, it's a double-edged sword, right?
oh yeah, hmm
Everything can be used for good or evil. I think about that
yeah,
as a knife in the hand of a robber, or that same knife in the hand of a surgeon.
hmm
One will kill, the other will save, but it's the same knife. And
yep.
that's the way it is. It's just, are we mature? Do you think we're mature enough as a species?
That's the question. Stephen Hawking didn't seem to think so. He's one of my big heroes, I guess, and
Me too.
he had a pretty grim outlook on how long he thought we had left. But I remember at one point he was saying we had 1,000 years left, and then after that he shortened it down to like 100.
Yeah,
I'm hoping we'll live longer than that. But yeah, it's scary with the internet. The way it is, anyone and everyone can put anything and
right.
everything on there, and there's rarely any fact checking it. So it's just he said, she said, and then somebody looks at it, and that's fact.
Yep. And so and truth is I mean, I would like to get us more in the sense of to a more objective truth, but there's also a subjective element to it. What is true for me might not be true for you.
Right. hmm And then
On
that's the whole battle of it too. What is the truth?
Yeah,
And especially when it comes to opinion based topics, like how should the world be run? And
exactly.
yeah, that's a whole.
And that's how. So how do you enter into this as a musician, as a vineyard master, so tell me a little bit, because this is the first time you and I have met. So what would be a good way of learning about you? We've just met, and I want to know. Tell me something important about Jay Thompson. Tell me some things that are important, that are on your mind and heart this morning, in the winter of 2021.
Well, usually the political world I have set aside completely,
Okay,
especially as a musician. I've got
good.
plenty of
We
opinions
take
about it, but
right.
I want to reach everybody,
Let's do it.
and so um,
And
I try to
music.
make.
What is it that music quells the savage? There's some great phrase about it, but the music is a bridge that goes across. Correct?
hmm Yeah, the music that I make, I've got a mission, and I try to make music to help out people that are going through a rough time. And
Oh,
the music that I try to take you on a journey with the music. It starts off here, and then I try to make, the music. There's no lyrics to my music. It's all
right.
instrumental. So I try to use the music and take you where I want to take you. We use the song titles to tell the story,
Yeah.
and then from there I just give you my show. And yeah, most I've got several albums. Some of them are geared specifically towards helping out people with depression. I've got
Yes.
some more recently that I released for more geared towards anxiety. The
Hmm.
very first three albums that came out were all towards people that are mourning.
Yes.
I lost my dad in 2012, so it was hard for me to figure out a way to think about him without breaking down, without being so sad. So I wrote these albums as a way to think about them in a happy way. It's all about having a party on the beach on the island
Yeah.
of Ghosts and Angels.
Oh, how wonderful. Would you play us something to give us a sense, and then we can dig into it and dig into some of the fame. Give us a title and a little bit of background, and then play us something, because I could use some. I'm at a time of deep growth. I've really looked into my soul and said, what are the blockages to my living my fullest, most authentic life? And there are these places. They're both conscious and they're unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm needing to do that. So could you play some healing, something for me that would help me, and then I'll let you know, and I'll resonate it back to you.
Absolutely. And I'm going through a similar kind of a thing where I need to start focusing on, loving myself and focus on everything that I'm good at and just, embrace me. But I'm just getting into that journey now.
Thank you, producer, director, and my partner Renee Jaworski, for bringing this on. Oh, what a gift she is. All right, please, Jay.
So this is Campfire, Crackle, and Tree Frogs, and I wrote it. It comes off of my album Carousel with Ghosts and Angels, which is all about going to the make-believe island of Ghosts and Angels so we can have a party on the beach with them. And every song on the album, I talk about one of my favorite things. One of my favorite sounds is campfire, crackle, and tree frogs. I love tree frogs.
Oh.
In June, when they first come out, I love it.
That was magnificent. Ah,
Dropped my
the,
pick.
that's wonderful. Do you are you going to play that tonight at the festival that you're playing? I understand that you're going to be playing tonight.
Tonight, no, I've got my newest album, A Place to Relax. That's the one I'm going to play.
Yeah.
That song, every song on it talks about one of the places that I jam at.
You know, the thing that I find interesting, one of the things that Renee and I are doing, one of the purposes of the Tardan Media Network is to have a place where artists can share their joys, their passions, their pain, the work, the healing of the world, to see where we're places. And our mission is to be able to get enough money coming through so that we've chosen a number, and that number, that once we get that much money, so we can be working artists. There is did you ever consider the concept of how much is enough?
to survive on your own as an artist?
Yeah, to survive on your own, to be able to, that you would say, and that's the place where what we've done. We sat down and calculated what would enough be, so that we will know when we hit it. When we hit that much, then everything after that is going to go off and support other artists, support NGOs, support. But we will know it when we hit it, because when I look at the world, and I look at some of the people who have hundreds of millions or billions or this, and I just wonder, what would enough be?
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be enough for them.
Well, no, I mean, I don't know how that would be. So it must be some kind of a narcotic beyond what I can understand. So how do you, as a working artist, so how do you think about that with the work that you do and the support that you do? How does that, talk about that?
Well, as an artist, there's not a whole lot coming in money-wise, so most of the finances have to be covered by an outside job.
Exactly, as I do. I'm a communication coach, so that's what we're doing in order to support the network. Renee's an attorney, and she has a lot of the work that she does.
Right.
And so
for the last several years, I've been working in a couple of vineyards and wineries. I've worked at Ferrante's winery. They made this stuff.
Oh, how nice. Hello, Grante. Well, thank you for sponsoring Jay so that we would have him on here. All right. So Grante, so what part of the vintnership do you play in this, and there in the vineyard?
Well, I was everything out in the vineyards, any work that needed done out in the vineyards, I was out there doing it. There was, whenever wine needs to be racked from one tank into another tank, I'd help out with that. They have to be sugar additions made, so I'd help out with that. I wasn't the top winemaker's assistant, but I was working underneath him, so they were teaching me.
Wonderful.
These last few years, I've been looking at these years as more of a learning experience than anything, because this is like my second passion. I love making wine. The whole idea of taking grape juice and turning it into wine, and I love it. And then
wonderful. What an ancient, I mean, this is such an ancient, I mean, I love how that ties back to both actually and metaphorically throughout our human existence. Wine has been an essential part of us, of our story.
Yeah. And I decided that's what I wanted to get into doing for the rest of my life. So I picked there's like 20 or 30 different wineries all around Northeast Ohio. Yeah. So I picked one of the most successful ones, Ferrante's. He's doing well for himself. So I figured might as well learn from the best. And then from there, I met so many other winemakers. It's a whole community, and they all help each other out. It's a great community to be a part of. And I learned so much from all the other winemakers. After Ferrante's, COVID hit, I had to stop working there because I had to stay home with my kids. Sure. They're doing the remote schooling.
Of course.
And then once I started getting back into work again, I went to Emerita Vineyard. They're not open yet, but they're trying to get open within the next couple of years. So it's helping them to get up and going.
Get started. Are you a startup kind of guy? Do you like getting at that place in the early adoption and seeing what you can do to help? Is that part of your personality?
It was very cool. There was another guy that already does that in this area. He started up several of the wineries around here, and I just started learning from him as well. But
Nice.
uh,
I find you use that word a lot, the word learning, and
I'm
because
still
that's
learning.
where I am right here.
Yeah.
At 73. I feel like that I'm at a place where I'm a deeper learner than I have ever been in my life. I'm learning more. I'm more open to making mistakes. I'm more open to seeing those places within me that need healing
Mm-hmm.
and growing and doing it. So then do you, so I can see you, I envision this so that here you are, you work in the winery and then you come home and you work with your kids and you work and then you take out your beautiful guitar and begin playing to scope a just a little bit of the artistic vision of how your life is right now, Jay.
Well, there's I used to actually bring the guitar to work with me. That was one of the nice things about working at Emerita Vineyard. It was a little more open to, um, as long as you show up and get the job done. I
Absolutely.
want to bring a guitar and jam for an hour in between. She was completely okay with that. So I was bringing my guitar to the vineyards a little bit to do little shows out there a little bit. The only hard part was trying to determine the best time to do it. I get there and play. That's a good time to do it right away. But then I feel like if I show up first thing and start jamming, I feel like I'm taking advantage of the place. I should work first. So on other days, I come and I start working first, and I get all dirty, and my hair gets all messed up, and then pop up my phone and start jamming, and I'm all dirty. And but
So tell me about this latest album, the one you're going to be playing tonight, and how where does your when you have an inspiration, do you get is it a concept album? Do you get a concept for it and then go into and then take places? Because I'm very interested in, as a non-musician, Renee is a musician besides being an attorney and about 8,000 other things. She's also a musician and a songwriter and a player and so many things in music. I'm the newbie, so she is bringing me along and helping me in learning how to write and learning how to do that. So, what is your process when you think about an album?
well, I grew up listening to Pink Floyd, so I'm very much concept album oriented.
Ah,
So everything that I write tends to be a concept album, so much to the point where I don't even write one single album. There's usually
mhm.
2 or 3 albums that all tie together. I've
Ah,
got 12 or 13 albums currently, and every one of them, like there's like 2 or 3 of them, they're all pairs or triplets.
certainly.
And so yeah, usually I'll come up with an idea for a concept for a whole story that I want to tell,
Yeah.
and I'll just start brainstorming. I'll do the bubble, put the branch off from the bubble, all my different song ideas and everything, and that'll kind of give me an idea for where the story's going to go. And then from that point, I just start writing music, and I'll look at the titles, and okay, this one's going to be Campfire, Crackle, and Tree Frogs, and
Yeah.
I'll think about being out there with the tree frogs and the campfire crackle, and I'm like, all right, how do I want this one to take people? And I'll just go ahead and start writing it.
How cool. Do you write notes first, or do you play? Or help me to understand your musical process,
People,
so that those who are actual musicians will get a chance. So talk above my head,
well,
but talk to
people that
them.
other musicians that I've jammed with in the past have made fun of me because I've invented my own tabs, and it's all like a bunch of scribbles and numbers, and a lot of some people can make some sense of it, but otherwise, like a
Oh,
lot of people are like, what the heck is that? And then I look at it because
yeah.
I wrote this song, so I know exactly what that means when I look at it. So that's
How lovely.
my own
How
tab.
lovely. And so your direction in healing, like when you were talking about grieving your father's passing and your father's death, and death and dying is something that we're deeply here on the network. We dig in deeply for, because it's a common human experience,
Yeah.
and those common human experiences are the things that we need to do. So in your grieving process, with your father. How did you approach that with your music?
Well, at first, when it first happened, I was devastated. Nobody's ever been closer to me than my dad. He and I have been like best friends my whole life. I had a very rough life with my mom. She was
Yeah.
a schizophrenic, bipolar. She was very
Yep.
abusive. And my dad was the one that kind of got me away from her. And then he was the one that I always said everything to.
Wonderful. Tell me his name.
Terry Thompson.
Terry. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Continue.
And when he passed, I immediately wrote an album called The 5 Stages of Grief. And although I was trying to hit each of the 5 stages of grief when I wrote it, every song pretty much came out like the depression stage.
Yeah.
Because I was right in it when I wrote all that. And
Exactly.
I just needed to get it out, And so I did that. But over the last 10 years, I do write some music that's, tells my feelings about how sad I am about it. But
Sure.
it wasn't until COVID hit that I came up with the idea that I've got to move on past this. It's just too long, coming up on 10 years soon. And he wouldn't want me to be living that way my whole life. So for his sake, for my own sake, for everybody's sake, I decided, all right, I'm going to come up with music to help other people that are mourning.
Oh, wonderful.
So I was like, what's a way that people could think about it without getting sad about it? How about having a party on the beach on the evening at sunset? So I wrote that whole album. And then after I started to write that album, I came up with the idea for, okay, how about the journey to the island? So there was the journey of the 7 seas. And then branching off of that came the Grand Garden. That's exploring the island itself. So that became the whole trilogy.
Oh, wonderful. Where do we get your music? How do you, Jay? All right, so you think of an album is here. Here we have the entire internet. You literally have a connection to the entire world. Socially Distanced Fest. Isn't that amazing? How did you connect with them? Because Socially Distanced Fest is a big part of our lives. And
that's how I grew to the point that I'm at now. Before COVID was happening, I was getting, 10, 20 followers watching my videos at a time. And then all of a sudden somebody invited me to Socially Distant Fest and my video views shot up like crazy. Everybody's telling me they love watching my music. I'm like, whoa, I'm not used to all this attention.
How are you dealing with that? Because that's what's happening to us now. And because Renee has been over her career, she has been around a lot of people who have gone through this fame stage, going through this attention phase. And so she's warned me and she said, okay, it's about to happen to us. That's what we're happening. And so how are you experiencing this, Jay?
Trying to just stay humble and not let the whole thing. It's hard not to treat it like a drug, It's enjoyable. You love the attention. You love. I used to play in metal bands right after I graduated high school, and we'd play at all the clubs and everything, and you get 100 people in front of you, and it was just such a rush just to have all those people loving what you're doing on stage.
Right.
And it's hard not to love it too much. Like you got to hold yourself back a little bit.
So how do you ground yourself in that? So because there needs one of the things that when I look back in history and I think of the difference between Elvis and the Beatles, the Beatles had someone to call each other on their own bullshit. So there was a health there. Elvis didn't. He was that solo, and there was no one to check him. There was no one that could sit there and go it. And so do you have a community of musicians or a community that can talk to you and go, hey, Jay?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it would be some of my family members. I've got some extended family members. They more or less worry about my safety playing down at the creek, stuff like that. When I go down there and they're like, there's going to be homeless people coming down there, jumping you, stealing your music equipment. And I'm thinking, well, there's already like 20 other photographers walking down there, so they got their pick. But yeah, hopping up on Socially Distant Fest too, just hearing the way everybody talks to each
Isn't
other.
it? Isn't it? I mean, this is where, to me, this is community. This
Mm-hmm.
is where family. We have our family, which is our in our DNA. Then we have our family of choice, where we actually can begin. This is where I think of what we began this with the positive uses of the internet, is a
Yeah.
way for us to connect in ways to be able to say, how can I connect with you? Where are the places that we can use each other as we're climbing to be able to support each other as we go along?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what I love about it. Everybody's building each other up. There's never anything negative said to each other.
Right.
Every stream, the comments, if there is, everybody jumps on that comment, and then that person gets booted.
Well, there is, because I mean, I found, as you and I are both talking about, we're looking inside ourselves and we want to grow. And what I found I'm a strength trainer. I find that if you will help me see the places where I am strong and say, Dennis, do more of that.
Mm-hmm.
It works. It works stronger. I also like, I mean, it helps me when people say, when you do that, you're giving away your power. When you do that, you're giving away where you're really strong. Try this, but then turn me to what I should do, what I can do in
Mm-hmm.
order to do it. And that's what I love about Socially Distant Fest. And that's
Yeah.
what I love about Kim Ware and all the people that do, and all the people, Kim and Lars and Tom and
Yeah.
CJ and 1,000 other people that I'm leaving out from.
Such great people. There's too many to list.
Yeah, but this is our opportunity, and this is so.
Mm-hmm.
If we use this positively, because right now there is someone in South Africa who's watching this. There is
Yeah.
someone in Uganda. There is someone in the EAU. Someone. It can be anywhere, so that we can touch
Mm-hmm.
people.
Yep.
Would you like to touch us again with something else?
Sure. I'm gonna switch guitars.
Sure.
I
Who
play
is this
around in
guy?
different tunings. That first guitar was tuned in Dadgad. This one is in. It's like a D flat minor. I've been calling it the C flat minor guitar out of irony because there's no C flat note. But it's a very odd tuning. I believe the band Days of the New, I think they invented it. I was learning one of their songs, and as soon as I looked everywhere on the internet, I couldn't find that tuning anywhere. I'm like, so I'm going to have to go ahead and write a whole bunch of music in that tuning just so I can justify having a guitar left in that tuning. Wife loves it.
Perfect.
So here is, let me find, I got to turn the page here. I'm going to play from the first album, The Journey of the Seven Seas.
Please.
Here's the title track, The Journey of the Seven Seas.
One of the things that I love to be being exposed to something that I was never exposed to is that I can get my first impression. So I want to offer you that just as an artist to be able to get. I was sitting there as I was listening to it, and I was out in the middle of this wonderful ocean. And there were times when there were these huge swells that were coming on, and we were just going right into it and going through the swells. I felt the storm that would come into that, and then I would feel the placidness of the soft sea as we were just, cutting through the water. And then there would be the ups and the downs as they were going through. I was there as I was seeing it. I was feeling that inside. So that's my feedback as I went through it.
That's great. That's my hope, is that I can take people on the journey when I'm bringing them.
That is wonderful. And this, you have to understand, is that all of our audience who we come from a very musician rich audience. So I'm like the outlier. I can only imagine what they're getting a chance to experience so much deeper. I mean, when you say C minor, you might as well, you might as well be talking about about something, some type of a theoretical physics term, as far as I can understand, but they understand what that is. That's what I'm so glad that you were able to talk to them. Listen, in this last couple of minutes, is there anything that we haven't talked about that is on your mind or on your heart at this particular time and space for Jay Thompson?
I think I was going to mention something about how music saved my life. Back when
you think that would be something to talk about?
Yeah,
I think that's exactly what we want to talk about. Would you please?
It inspired the whole mission of creating music for people going through a rough time, and I was going through a rough time myself. Growing up under an abusive mother, and as a probably 18 or 19-year-old, everything just seemed like it was falling apart. I think the metal band that I was in currently broke up because some of the people couldn't get along, and the girl that I was dating at the time dumped me. So it was just a horrible, everything all happening at once. But mostly
at 19, when all the wiring has not yet been connected.
Yeah, you just feel like there's no future, there's no hope. I just wanted to jump off a bridge. Wow. And almost did. Walked right to the middle of this big Ashtabula viaduct, and I'm looking over the edge, and I'm listening to music as I'm doing it. I had some heavy metal playing, and the artists that were screaming the same emotions that I was already feeling in their music made me realize that I wasn't alone, and other people have gone through it and are telling the world about it. And that's what I wanted to do. And I was like, well, let's step this way now, and kept on going. And it was going to be the bottom. It was going to be the correct floor for me, but it was music that kept me going. And if I could create that same kind of music for other people and help them as well, that's what it's all about for me.
Jay, thank you for sticking around.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you for doing that, because this is the neat thing, because with your children, one of the things that I understand about parenthood, not being a parent myself, but certainly being an uncle, and this is that there's a saying that Robert Fulghum, the guy that wrote Everything You Needed to Learn, You Learned in Kindergarten, and he said this. He said, "Don't worry that your children aren't listening to you. Worry that they're always watching you."
Yep, they are.
And they're watching how you deal with grief, how you deal with creativity, how do you wield to getting your ass out of bed in the morning to be able to say, okay, how am I going to approach today with what kind of attitude?
Yep.
How am I going to do and what you're going to do? And because you got your ass out of bed and onto this stream today, you have lifted my heart. You have helped me to heal in a profound way that I would not have been able to do, that I couldn't have even understood or expected, but because of your example, your
Thank you for
music
having me.
and your example. But thank you. So I'm just so pleased that we got a chance to meet, because there's so much more. One thing I know about imagination is that there is so much more for me than I'm able to imagine. So if it is greater than I can imagine, then maybe I better put my imagination away and be there in that learning space. You know, that learner that you're talking about. You know, that we began the conversation on.
Yep.
To be a learner.
Life is a constant learning process from start to finish. You're always learning.
Yeah. And let's just keep doing that. Jay, thank you so much for sharing your artistry, for getting up on a Saturday morning and allowing us to spend a little time with you, you graceful human being.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll see you again. We'll see you again, and just play us a little out while you're doing, would you?
I'm gonna switch guitars.
Sure.
Go back to. Okay. Here's a song called "As Bad as It Gets, As Much as It Hurts, Just Keep Going."
Do it. Jay Thompson, thank you. And I want, before I leave, Renee has reminded me that from one veteran to another, I was I'm a grunt in the Army, but to your Air Force service and for the opportunity for all of us, I think service is a wonderful. I would love to see every single person who graduates from high school to take time to give service of some kind, service to the community, service to the military, service, because service ends up, it changed me and it changed my life and it gave it a maturity that I did not have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's truly a unique experience. Get to see the world. I met my wife while I was in there, and my whole life started when I joined the military.
Thank you, Jay Thompson. See you again